Welcome back, viewers at home. You're still tuned in right here on INX Prime channel 345. Now, joining me for this amazing conversation is Phumelele Ndumo, apologies about that, who is a trailblazer in the South African financial services industry. Now, as the founder and leader of the financial advisor of ThuthukaSA, an authorized financial service provider, she has dedicated her career to empowering individuals with the knowledge and tools necessary for financial success. Phumelele, in her insights, she will be sharing in the new retirement system and also just understanding it for daily South Africans on how to actually navigate through this new transition. Good evening, Phumelele, and welcome to INX Prime.
Good evening, Maimuna, and I would like to also greet your listeners.
Thank you so much. I know last week, you did give us an insight in terms of understanding what is the two-pot retirement system. Just to, jog our memory once again, if you can just tell us what is the two-pot retirement system, as well as how does it differ from the old retirement system?
The two-pot retirement system is coming into effect on the 1st of September this year. Mm-hmm. In terms of how does it differ from the current system, the current system enables members of pension funds or group retirement funds to cash their pensions when they resign from their jobs. And the impact of that has been that only 6% of South Africans can afford to retire financially comfortable, because many people have been cashing in their pensions as and when they're changing jobs. Very few people preserve their pensions. Now, the two-pot retirement system is effectively enforcing the preservation of the 2/3, which is in your retirement pot. Therefore, even if you still go ahead and decide to exercise and access money in your savings pot, at least if nothing else, your retirement pot is going to remain intact until you go on pension. So that's really the major difference. And the whole idea behind the two pots was to basically assist members, because yes, we've seen, especially June after COVID-19, how difficult lives have been for South Africans, with high inflation, people losing jobs, having to take salary cuts to just keep their jobs. So it can be difficult to know that you've got money in your pension or your group retirement annuity, but you are not able to access it. So there was really an outcry to say there has to be a way for members of pension funds to be able to access their money before retirement without having to resign from their jobs. And that is what the savings component of the two-pot system is doing, because you can now withdraw money in your savings pot once in a given tax year, and you do not have to resign from your job to be able to access that money.
Now, you can stand to correct me, Phumelele, since you are the one with the insight tonight. I want to understand, when we're looking at the retirement fund, we believe that that will be totally, in its totality, accessed when an individual retires. And then looking at the savings pot is the one that individuals have the maximum of. I remember last week you made an example where if you have in your vested pot, you have like 300,000, I believe 10%, which makes it, if I'm not mistaken, 30,000 that will go into your savings pot, and that amount you'll only access 2,000. If you can just re-explain to us how does that work, as well as just sharing in the overall tax liability that comes with withdrawing from your savings pot.
Okay, so whatever amount of money members have right now in terms of the pension fund value, so this does not only affect pension funds, it affects pension funds, it affects retirement annuities, and there's also an impact for provident funds, although it's a little bit different there. So you are now going to, on the 31st of August, you are going to be able to transfer 10% of the money in your vested pot into your savings pot.
Okay.
Only to the maximum of 30,000. So as you gave us the example there, if you have more than 300,000, you unfortunately can't transfer the entire 10%. Again, it means if you have less than 300,000, let's make an example and say you have 200,000. You'll only be able to transfer 20,000 into your savings pot. And come 1st of September, you will have, the maximum that anyone can have in their savings pot will be 30,000. Others will have less than that if they have less than 300,000 as a pension fund value as at the end of the 31st of August.
So now,
and in terms of the second part to your question was tax.
Yes,
And
the
this
taxation
is a very
and just
important
accessing
question.
it.
Yes, it's a very important question because when you want to withdraw this money, you can withdraw a minimum you are allowed to withdraw is 2,000 rands. The maximum is whatever amount of money is in your savings pot.
Okay.
But it is going to be taxed. It will be added into your income and you will be taxed at your marginal rate of tax. And in some instances, depending on where you are in your salary scale, you could find yourself being pushed into a higher marginal tax rate and paying more than you normally pay if you had not withdrawn this money. So the tax implication, it's important that we understand how this is going to be taxed. It's not going to come as 30,000 rands. It's going to come to you after tax. It's going to come to you after transaction fees. And transaction fees will be anywhere between 100 rands and 600 rands. And also, SARS has confirmed that if you owe them money, they will not give you your money before they take what's due to them. So be aware of all these deductions that will take place from your amount that you want to withdraw. So depending on your standing with SARS, you may end up not, getting much at the end of the day.
This is quite a risk. Now, in your view, Phumelele, can you share with us what should members understand about the withdrawal benefit and its potential implications on their long-term retirement savings?
Yes. By virtue of you withdrawing from your savings pot, you're basically not only carrying high tax now, and I think it's important for us to understand how you are going to be taxed when you reach retirement age. Your whatever money, let's say you decide not to touch money in your savings pot. That money is going to be available to you when you reach retirement age, which is likely to be when you need it the most. But most importantly, it's also going to be taxed using your retirement tables, which are much more favorable. For instance, your first 550,000 is tax-free. Now, if you keep dipping into your savings pot, you effectively throwing away that 550,000 tax-free withdrawal that you can make when you reach retirement. But also by continuously tapping into your savings pot, you are reducing your pension fund value. And when you reach retirement age, you will not have any money to access as a lump sum. You will only have money that is in your retirement pot. And if you have any money in your vested pot, you will also have access to that money. But I think, Maimuna, one other thing that I want to mention, because I think we must be cognizant of the fact that the state of our economy, the job losses, some people, you may not have lost your job, but your spouse, your child might have lost their job through retrenchment. It's really tough times, which is why this law was introduced. So we must also, be sensitive to the fact that some people are really looking forward to accessing this money. We've been inundated with, requests from our customers saying, we're hearing about this money, how much can we withdraw, and all these questions that you are asking. So some people might really have to withdraw, but if you don't have to withdraw, do yourself a favor, just forget about that money and, exercise it only when you reach retirement age, when you'll be taxed much less than you are going to be taxed right now at your marginal rate of tax, and you will still have access to the 1/3, which is in your savings pot to use for whatever need. And people normally use that money to settle their debts before they go on pension. And if they are fortunate enough to be debt free, they normally use that money for real necessities, like maybe buying your retirement car, as an example. So just leave that money. It's going to do you a lot of good when you go on pension, rather than using it now. The best thing to do now is, if you do not have an emergency fund, do yourself a favor, set up one, so that you are not tempted to dip into the savings pot in the retirement system.
Just hearing about some of the implications when it comes to accessing the money in your savings account, a bigger question then arises: how much of this money is helping me? Because you look at the taxation that it comes with it, and the amount of it's limited to it being, in this instance, a minimum of 2,000 rand, amongst other conversation. I want to understand from you, Phumelele, is there a way of one being able to track their savings as well as their retirement pot to best make those informed decisions?
Is there a way to
tracking the growth of their retirement fund as well as the savings pot?
Yes. In actual fact, I'm not going to mention any names, but there are companies that have already said they will be assisting with calculators.
Okay.
Because in the current system, and it's very painful when you are a financial advisor and you understand how tax works, to see what people have been doing, withdrawing entire pension and taking over R1 million in some instances in just tax, because of the way you are taxed if you withdraw the money before you reach pension age. So there will be calculators that will be made available for people to see before they even, complete the withdrawal form. You will be able to get a sense of how much tax you are likely to be paying based on your own scenario, because everyone's salary is different, and things like the marginal tax rates that you're paying, and other liabilities that you might have to SARS. So such tools I would really encourage people to use, so that you get a very good sense how much this 30,000 is going to be. By the way, the 30,000 is what is called seeding. It's definitely going to be growing over time, because monthly, when you contribute towards your pension and your employer contributes towards your pension, what's going to be happening is, net of fees, 1/3 of that money is going to be allocated to your savings pot. The other 2/3 will go to your retirement pot. So maybe don't withdraw if you don't need the money, because at a later stage, you will find that you have more to withdraw if you really need the money. And also, maybe another important point, Meimuna, is that these rules apply per fund. So if you have a pension preservation fund, there's your first 30,000. If you are a member of a pension fund, there's your second 30,000. If you have 1 or 2 retirement annuities, there is another 30,000. So it's not necessarily 30,000 rands for everyone. It should depend what other RAs, or if you have a pension preservation, you'll get 30,000 per fund.
Now, all this information that you just shared with us, Phumelele, this evening, just in closing, what would you say, or how do you see the two-pot system affecting, the futuristic plannings around retirement?
In a way, I find it that it's good for a number of reasons. It's really difficult to reach retirement age and find that you are now living at a much less. I have customers, I've seen people who, prior to retirement, maybe they were earning 100,000 rands net into their bank account monthly, but there was no retirement planning, and they have so little in their pension fund or retirement annuities, and they have to learn to live on 15,000 rands, as an example. So such instances are going to be falling away, because we'll be forced to save the 2/3. So we'll have many more people being able to retire not as difficult as it is right now. I'm sure the stats, the 6% of people that can afford to retire financially comfortable, that should increase. And it should also put less burden on family and the children in particular to have to look after their elderly parents because they have so little to live on.
Just to close off, I know I said that was my last question. What would you say, just to best summarize our conversation, are the 5 or 3 key tips people should actually understand when it comes to the two-pot system?
The most important one is, if you can help it, do not withdraw, because you are going to be having, in all likelihood, you'll have much less by the time the money hits your bank account. The other key lesson for me is, if up until now you've not seen the importance of an emergency fund, really do yourself a favor and set up one so that you don't necessarily tap into this money unless you really have to. And before you tap into this money, do yourself a big favor. Use the calculators that are going to be available. And also check if you have any arrears with SARS, any unpaid penalties, because it could very well be that after you've gone through the trouble of trying to access this money, it all goes towards paying off, your arrears and penalties that you owe to SARS. So make sure that, and unfortunately, once you've submitted that withdrawal, you can't go back and say, sorry, I made a mistake. So do your homework beforehand.
Phumelele, thank you so much for making this much easier, and I believe our viewers are now able to explain it to their loved ones as well as friends in terms of understanding the two-pot system that will be implemented come the 1st of September. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maimuna, for having me.
Viewers at home, that was Phumelele, who is the founder of ThuthukaSA, and sharing in some of the important tips in terms of how to actually look into the two-pot system. Do not get too excited in terms of withdrawing because of some of the tax liabilities that it comes with, because guys, you do not want now retirement comes and you're just left to a small amount that you can't even do much or rather live off. But that's where we close it off for now. Let's head over to an ad break. See you when we come back.